So yesterday it was confirmed by Fabrizio Romano, then loads of credible sources, that Sheikh Yassim has withdrawn from the Manchester United Takeover race, and shortly after that it came out that Jim Ratcliffe was very close to acquiring a 25% stake in United. So in today's video we're going to talk about Jim Ratcliffe's stake, what that will end up looking like, what will Sir Jim Ratcliffe do with the club, are there any positives with this? Obviously he's not Qatar, but there are things that he would do that maybe like bring in Paul Mitchell and ultimately get sporting control, which he will do to improve United. But is it over for Qatar just yet? I see people saying, look, Saudi Arabia pulled out, then they came back and bought Newcastle. So Jim's offer hasn't actually been officially approved. It's such a difficult deal to do with the board structure. It needs to be approved. Is it over for Qatar yet? We will speak about that. Now, in all honesty, I think it's over for Qatar, and reportedly Qatar are prepping a new plan to buy a London club in West Ham or Spurs, which is the worst case scenario. But we're going to talk about Sir Jim, what Sir Jim plans to do with the club, and then we will talk about Qatar. And I'm going to say one thing to you guys. I am ill, I feel dead, and I'm still devastated because for me, I just think we were so close to the Qataris. We were so close to getting owners who were going to clear the debt and get rid of the Glazers completely right away and invest big in January. And I think with Sir Jim, we still probably can get back to the top under Sir Jim, but it will just take a lot longer. And there's no guarantees. But there has been a few, I wouldn't call it positives. I was never the biggest fan of Sir Jim, but there's been a few things that have come out which suggest that it will still be better under Sir Jim than the Glazers. And that is that Sir Jim is to secure control of all footballing operations in his proposed 25%. So it's being said here that while Sir Jim is only buying 25%, he's going to have full control of footballing operations in the co-ownership deal. And that is the first thing. I think that's a positive for me. Because while I didn't want Ratcliffe, because he's allowing the Glazers to stay, and I think when you had Qataris there who were going to clear the debt, do everything that's needed to be done, and then Ratcliffe comes and allows the Glazers to stay, if he does take full control of the club and he runs the club well, we can still have success. If he does bring in Paul Mitchell, he does put in a proper structure, that will massively improve us. I wrote out my full thoughts, trying to get into a positive mindset yesterday, saying that Ratcliffe is set to purchase a 25% stake in United. So where do we go from here? A lot of people have asked me, Alice, where do we go from here? What's the best case scenario? What's the worst case scenario? Well, the best case scenario is that 25% quickly transitions into 69%, which is completely buying out the Glazers and their share, and then 100% and obviously taking us off the stock market. And hopefully that happens in a couple of years rather than 6-7 years like being quoted. If Ratcliffe gains control, hopefully he implements the right people and structure. So someone like Paul Mitchell, we get rid of Arnold, we get rid of Mercer. And the most important thing at the end of the day is seeing the Glazers out. The hope is that Ratcliffe will get the Glazers out sooner rather than later. That's the most important thing. I said that I believe that while Ratcliffe may not have the funds to address all of Man United's needs, and there's better ownership options out there, aka I think the Qataris would have been much better owners. With the right strategy, we can still find success on the field, certainly better than the Glazers. So I've tried to be positive. I said, look, if Sir Jim comes in with the right strategy, with such a big club that generates so much money, we can still find success. We don't need to be Qatari rich to succeed. We just need a good footballing structure, and we've got to hope the Sir Jim does that. I said it could be a little bit like FSG with Liverpool, which, look, isn't ideal, but it is an improvement on the Glazers. And while his tenure at Nice is concerning, and I'm worried about how he'll operate United, because he's not been the most promising at Nice, although they are second right now, but he's not been the most promising at Nice, especially with the reports coming out about how people revolted against him. So I am worried about what he will do if he does get full control of the club. But Man United do generate a certain amount of revenue, and if any owner puts the right structure in and has Man United's best interest at heart, we can still be a successful club just because of how big we are. So essentially, with Sir Jim, we've just got to hope that, one, the Glazers completely depart sooner rather than later, and two, that Sir Jim has United's best interest in heart. Now, look, Sir Jim claims he's a Manchester United fan and he has our best interest in heart, but if he did, I don't think he would allow the Glazers to stay here even longer and give them what they want. That's just my personal opinion, but I'm trying to look at the positive and all of that. It was said by people like Ben Jacobs that he would bring in someone like Paul Mitchell, which would be a positive for me. It said that he aims to get full control of the club and have sporting control of the club, which is a positive for me. Because at the end of the day, if he was just coming in and it was the Glazers here and he just given the Glazers the money to do what they wanted and the Glazers are in full control, that's awful. If he's actually getting some control of sporting operations and he's going to bring in someone like Paul Mitchell, then we could be in a much, much better position as well. But it said that if Ratcliffe gets board approval, he'll undertake a 100-day review at the club. So the interesting thing is that Ratcliffe actually hasn't had board approval yet, which is why some people are suggesting, okay, well, could that mean that, Ratcliffe won't be approved? Could that mean that's hope for Qatar? I mean, I think the Qataris are out just because this Ratcliffe deal's really advanced. I know Saudi Arabia left the Newcastle race and then came back and won it later. So that could technically happen with Qataris. They come back and win it later. But I think for that to happen, Sir Jim's deal would have to fall through completely. I mean, there's a possibility it can just because of the complicated nature of it. But I don't think they would have pulled out if they thought that Sir Jim was going to fall through. It was basically said, now this has been somewhat concluded, United might push forward with their plans to build a new stadium. And also, by the way, I'm ill, so I don't know how good I sound, but I'm ill. I blame the Glazers. The only positive right now is this takeover is at least finding an end. Did I want Sir Jim? No. Do I want the Glazers to stay? Absolutely not. Am I partly glad that the takeover's over because I've been fed up of speaking about it for 11 months? I guess so, but I feel so drained. I feel ill, and it just feels like a bit of a dark day for United because I think we had that hope that the Glazers were finally going to be gone, and then we've had that for 11 months and then they've not gone. But, I mean, the one positive is, as far as I'm aware, and to know in our lot, we'll get a story come out next week saying that Sir Jim's only ever going to have 25% or something stupid. But as far as I'm aware, it will be him owning 25% of the club, and then in 2 years' time, completely buying the Glazers out. Then in 6 years' time, owning 100% of the club and taking it off the stock market. Don't really want to wait 2 years for the Glazers to go. But the best case scenario right now is that Ratcliffe gets a hold of sporting operations and brings in someone like Paul Mitchell. I think that's the best case scenario. But anyway, a lot of people are saying, Alice, is there any hope for Qatar? Is it over for Qatar? All of this. Now, I think it is over for Qatar, especially because reports are coming out that the Qataris have a new plan to buy a London club in either West Ham or Tottenham. But Ben Jacobs said a few interesting things on Qatar. So Ben Jacobs said that Yassim effectively pulled out because he was rejected, but suggested that further talks had been held in recent days to try and find a conclusion. So basically, Sheikh Yassim had been having a lot of talks to try and find a conclusion. He really wanted to get United done. But basically, I think the Glazers were like, now we've got a minority stake now, we're not selling. That's what I think it is. It was said here by Ben Jacobs, now as far as Sheikh Yassim is concerned, as I said before, you tend to hear from the loser first in these type of process and situations. We obviously have from Qatar side first. And I think Yassim realised that Ratcliffe was heading to victory, so pulled out before he was rejected. He also pulled out because he was frustrated by the process. And in the last few days, Sheikh Yassim had held advanced talks with those running the process to determine whether or not there was a way forward. And he had made a bid of double effectively the club's market valuation. The market valuation may change over the course of the coming days. Given the news, the stock valuation is going to go down massively. But at the time of recording, the Manchester United market valuation was $3.2 billion, and Yassim was effectively for double that. But then there was pledged investment on top of that number, also increased from 1 billion to 1.7 billion. So all in all, the total package would have been $8 billion. Obviously, the Glazers don't care about the billion pledged investment, and they never will. But you just look at this and you think the Glazers were offered $8 billion in total for a club they've not put any of their own money in. For a club they've taken 1.2 billion out. They brought us on debt. We're clearing their debt for them. They've not spent any of their own money on this club. And Qatar come in and say, we'll take it completely off your hand, $8 billion package in total, and our owners reject that. And I just look at that and I think the pure greed of our owners. And now it's been said that the Qataris are going to make a focus on Spurs or maybe West Ham in their new plan. So as far as I'm aware, I think it's over for the Qataris. But I'm not saying it's 100% over for Qatar. I'd say it's 99% over for Qatar. I think if something goes wrong on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's side, if his offer doesn't get approved because of the complicated structure, potentially there's a chance for Qatar there. Never say never. But I think from what we're hearing, Sir Jim is really close to approval. I think that the Glazers probably wouldn't have given Qatar the nod to withdraw if they thought something was going to fail with Sir Jim. I think that Sir Jim deal is very close. And yeah, it's a bit disappointing. I feel ill. But we've just got to hope really now, because it's going to be Sir Jim 99%. We've just got to hope now he takes over control of the sporting operations. he brings in the right people, he has the club's interest at heart, and he doesn't take money out of it. To be honest, he's not taking money out of Nice. He will be better than the Glazers. He's not Qatar. He's not the best ownership option out there, but he will be an improvement on the Glazers. And, you know, if he gets the right people in and has the club's best interest at heart and completely buys the Glazers out in the next few years, I think that's all we can really hope for now. But yeah, anyway, guys, we've got 1 or 2 more stories coming in. I'm not related to the takeover. One is that Casemiro is injured, and 2 is that McTominay's been told he can't leave in January, despite him sort of discussing a January move because of limited game time. And then we also have a report that maybe we could go for Todibo in January. And I'm telling you this now. So, Jim, if you've got something for me, and I look so rough. I am ill, guys. I am so ill. So I look, oh, God. But if so, Jim can bring in Todibo in January, maybe Thuram. Please. Just give us Todibo. Anyway, smash a like, smash a subscribe. I might be back later, but I'm like, look at me. You know what I mean? Anyway, smash a like, smash a subscribe. See you next time. Bye.